wash my soul in the ocean, in the tears of God, I let it go.
Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from AstroLada.com, and today I'm talking about the epochal and very rare Jupiter-Neptune conjunction in Pisces, which is happening for the first time since 155 years or even longer. Imagine the influence. Actually, Jupiter-Neptune conjunctions happen every 13 years, but specifically in Pisces, it will not be for another 155 or 160 years. And first of all, I want to thank everyone who contributed to the Jupiter-Neptune in Pisces conjunction on my Facebook group, because we had such one and it gave me great ideas and insights. I don't remember your names, but thank you so much if I mention some of your ideas. And yeah, it's fascinating. I'm very excited about this conjunction. It has its positive and it has its not so positive sides. Like in everything in astrology, we'll cover both of them, and we'll do only world predictions. This will not be for you personally, whether your sun in Aries or ascendant in Sagittarius. I did those predictions in my April 2022 videos. There is one for each sign, one video for each sign. You can check them out. And before I start, I want to let you know that I have, because it's my birthday, very close to the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction on my 14th of April. It's my birthday, so I'm making a big discount, up to 50% on some of my courses, or actually most of my courses, except the new one that I'm doing now in May. Check them out. If you want to learn with me my type of astrology, I'll put a link below. Okay, so Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. Let's look historically what's been happening. The last time Jupiter-Neptune conjuncted in Pisces was in 1856, something like that, 1856. Yeah, I think that. What happened, and to be sure what happens, is when a conjunction of Jupiter-Neptune happens, it lasts for the next 13 years. The themes that they initiated around that year of the conjunction take around 13 years to unfold. So we look not only at the events that happened at that year, but the events that unfolded over the next 12, 13 years. But it's fascinating what happened exactly on that year. Around the time of the conjunction, within a month, there was a war in Crimea. What's happening right now, the war in Ukraine with Russia, is again happening in Crimea. There was a war then, and it ended very close to the conjunction. Actually, Russia lost then, and it signed a peace treaty with the Western allies. We don't know, maybe history repeats itself, but it's some cycle. You're seeing, I think Crimea was taken then from Russia. I'm not sure exactly what happened. It was a religious war, and it ended that time. So this is a very good sign, hoping that towards the middle of April, the end, or within a month, like last time, there will be the end of that conflict. Because first of all, Pisces is a very forgiving sign. And if you remember, the late Nicholas Stoyanovich, it's 1 year from his passing. I think even today is 1 year. He said that Russia is ruled by Pisces. In occult astrology, Aquarius rules Russia and the Slavic countries. But actually, if you look where Pisces is, the constellation behind is Aquarius. Maybe that's why Nicholas Stoyanovich picked up that Pisces corresponds to Russia. So again, we're seeing two very benevolent planets. The planet Neptune is divine grace, is forgiveness, is releasing any kind of hatred, is divine unconditional love. And Jupiter is planet of well-being, well-meaning, kindness, goodness, divine, it's angelic wisdom. So hopefully those two countries will come to some kind of a agreement around that time. Another thing that happened in the 50s of the 19th century, 1854 or 5, exactly around the Neptune conjunction, Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, was the first oil and petrol refinery were starting to be open around the world. So that's when we started using gas and petrol. Again, incredible. What a cycle. Do you see what is happening around in the world now? It seems like the use of gas and petrol is coming to an end. It started when they first conjoined it, because Neptune And Pisces rules gases, petrol, you know, those all those Neptunian things. And now we're having a crisis connected with gas and petrol, and you see there is hyperinflation because Jupiter blows out whatever it touches. Neptune is gas, petrol. The prices, Jupiter is to expand, to grow. The price of petrol, of gas around the world, hyperinflation. And as a consequence, there is hyperinflation everywhere because gas determines the price of absolutely every product, almost every product of food, of whatever, everything uses that. So that's the negative side of Neptune Jupiter conjunction in Pisces, plus Pisces rules expenses. And Venus will be also in Pisces during the conjunction. Venus is prices, and Venus is exalted in Pisces. What does it mean? Overblown. To be exalted is to be overhyped, you know. So again, we're seeing hyperinflation of goods because of the prices of gas and oil. So fascinating stuff. Again, how history repeats itself, and I guess it will, over the next 13 years, probably there'll be like conclusion of the use of many of the petrol and gas and such kind of products. As it's, as I said, the cycle continues 12, 13 years, so there'll be a gradual, possibly releasing of that, you know, or some kind of shifts happening. Then another thing that happened in the 1854, 56, something like that, is that synthetic dyes were discovered. As you know, Pisces rules anything to do with color, with imagery, with painting, with art, with photography. And this allowed painters to go really wild. So there was a renaissance in painting, starting with the discovery of the synthetic dyes and the paints, because they didn't have to, you know, go and find flowers and different stones and smash them, whatever. So, you know, which art developed in the last Jupiter-Neptune conjunction? Impressionism. It's very Neptunian. If you've seen Impressionist art, it's like a lot of small dots. It's not sticking to reality. It's almost like magical. If you look at Impressionist painting, it's fairy tale like. There is this very romantic energy to it. And so I'm expecting some kind of renaissance over the next 13 years with some art of painting or visual art. Nowadays it will be possibly like digital, you know, involvement because there is some new environment for art, just like new resources for art, just like in the 19th century was discovered new paints that allowed the appearance of such new art systems. Now there will be possibly something with the digital, the computer world, but I also foresee that there will be amazing music coming because Pisces rules and Neptune rule the music industry, especially music that touches the soul. It's not the like you know, maybe a revival of soul music of some sort, or revival or new such trends, rather than music that is toop, 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 toop. You know, you'd see some, because Jupiter also brings creative ideas, like a downpouring of knowledge and inspirations on music, Neptune and Pisces. So expect to find the birth of a new music trends and new artists that come, or new creations artistic that touch your soul. Let's say that uplift the soul, that raise the vibration. You know, music is the highest art that connects you to the invisible realms the fastest, interestingly enough. So again, that's Neptune, Pisces energy that we're talking about, connecting with the invisible realms and with the higher vibrations. So let's hope this is a thing as well. I'm sure it will be. Just watch and see. As well is the cinema industry, the photography industry. There will be some kind of a revolution. Some very inspired, beautiful cinematographic pieces of art, of photography as well. And I expect, because it is escapism, Pisces, Neptune, Jupiter expands it, there will be a huge boom and expansion over the next 12 years of anything connected to escaping reality. Virtually is one of the ways. It will be beautiful virtual worlds that will be created. Yes, it's a revolution in a sense. It's I mean, I don't know how healthy it is to be disconnected from reality, but we can use it as a healthier method of escapism rather than drugs, you know, rather than um, some kind of substances, because there's the low vibration of Jupiter Neptune conjunction, and there can be explosion of that as well. There can be explosion of people experimenting with synthetic or organic drugs of any sorts, in a sense, so they can alter their state of consciousness, because Neptune Pisces, it's about altering the state of consciousness. There might be the invention of some super great drug like Soma from you know, Brave New World, the Soma, or some kind of new drugs for mental health being. Maybe, you know, just like any drug can be extremely good. If you're depressed, if you've lost someone, using such a drug for a couple of weeks or a month, it's good, but starting to use it as a life crutch, it's double-edged knife, as they say. So we have to show here some over the next 13 years to be very careful, because pharmaceuticals will invent incredible mind-altering drugs. Hopefully some of those will be of more natural and more with less side effects, because humans will always be drawn to altering their state of consciousness. On the lower level, we do it through drugs. On the higher levels, through meditation and states of ecstasy, achieving any of those things, you know. I think there will be an explosion in such industries as well, that you know, nootropics, as they're called, nootropics that can shift your mood, but they're more like supplements and they're healthier. There'll be explosion of drugs that are mind altering and such, that of course they can be like opiates as well. Let's hope, you know, that, or maybe a healthier version of that is less addictive, or, you know, and there might be great advances with helping, because Jupiter is knowledge and Neptune is divine grace. By divine grace, and because of God's infinite love, which is Neptune, we can be given insights or some solutions to healing. Pisces is healing of addictions that are more spirit-based, that are more knowledge-based, not necessarily just with other chemicals, but they can be great and I expect that within the next 13 years, you know, we've had very little success with treating alcoholism, drug addictions, only 12 steps groups, which are faith-based. It's very Neptunian again, but now I think there will be involvement also of more companies for profit, of course, but there will be a great outpouring of knowledge from above, how to treat depending and addictive situations through psychology, not only through psychology, through substances, through treatment plans. So expect to be a revolution in that area, to have a breakthrough, because it's so many people are lost to that, and it's so hard for many of us, you know, to take it from ex-addict on many levels. So that's you know, and maybe because psychotropic drugs like psychedelics and microdosing is again very Neptunian, but there is way to use it so you don't just see dragons around, you know, to such a level, you know, just having hallucinations. Microdosing, it's called, in small drops, that it doesn't change your perception, but it improves your mood. Because what is an addiction? Addiction is when you emotionally can't handle reality, so inability to connect emotionally. So we try to connect through substances, to feel connected, to feel in the flow. And of course, Jupiter, Neptune, Pisces combination can allow us access to other such substances, or to other more healthier methods, hopefully, to feel more connected. And one of those is, I expect companies, if you invest or in nootropics or psychedelics or microdosing, they can be big theme for the next 13 years. Of course, with negative and positive consequences. Of course, I believe, because Jupiter and Neptune remove barriers as well, they can be removal of barriers and a law, like in law, about using of marijuana, legalizing of drugs, purifying drugs to some extent, so they can be healthier. But on the negative side, we can get a bit zombified in the next 13 years if you escape too much through substances, if you escape too much in the metaverse or in the virtual realities that they'll create incredible ones. As I said, the new field for exploration will be in the digital sphere. Don't forget that the constellation behind this is Aquarius, which is digital, while the sign is Pisces. So they'll create these beautiful worlds of magic, beautiful computer games that will immerse all your senses. You'll lose yourself in them. There'll be some incredible things, but that can be just another addiction, you know. But hopefully, good combination of a little bit of healthy nootropics or microdosing, plus occasional recreational doses of escaping through those beautiful worlds, you know, that they create, and they can be useful, great, not just playing computer games, but enjoying beautiful views, because the mind can recognize whether it's a real view you're watching, or whether it's, you know, if you're seeing in your mind beautiful painting or art of nature, it has the same uplifting effect, of course, not through all five senses, to a lesser degrees, but sometimes if you live in a big city, you don't have access to those, so they can be used for spiritual upliftment. They can be used for meditation, for color therapy, or for raising the mood and spirit, for healing the mentality. And that's where I believe a lot of the art will be developing. And of course, as everything, it can be used for good or bad, either to zombify yourself, and a big part of humanity will go that way. The stuff on pills and mind altering or antidepressants and such ones, while others will extract just the best of those new innovations, implement it for healthier, more fulfilling, more spiritually rich and emotionally healthy lifestyle. You know, just doing sometimes some world, like just like in our imagination, can be healthy, you know. Another thing that I expect can happen is a lot of discoveries and improvement of the well-being, mental health. Pisces is very much connected to the mental health. It's not so much mental as emotional well-being. So, you know, that's good news for those of us who are always feel like in the middle of an ocean, thrown around by our emotions. So there'll be deeper understanding. Pisces is the spiritual world, the emotional, how happy, how joyful, how blissful. Jupiter Pisces is blissful, and Jupiter brings knowledge there and dispensation of new knowledge, new techniques to enter into new states of higher consciousness. Because Pisces is the sign that can lead us to the next level of consciousness. We all think it's one level, but there is higher levels of feeling unified, or feeling joyful, or feeling pleasure from everything. You know, there's so many. The scale of consciousness is from 0 to 1,000, and collectively we're around 200 now as human. Imagine we have 800 more state of consciousness above to discover. So for some of us, there'll be a great advance, especially for the spiritually minded people, those who are looking for mental happiness, for emotional happiness. There will be great strides already starting from now, from April, great healings and great opportunities and new methods given to us by the invisible realms, inspired to us into the people who are interested into that, to bring in psychological. Pisces rules psychology as well, how the invisible mind works, the subconscious. There will be knowledge that we are given about solving mental problems, emotional problems, psychological, really incredibly advanced psychological techniques will appear for the healing of, you know, the, let's say, mind, body, soul connection, and changing the state of consciousness to a higher one. Of course, there was another thing that happened in the 1850s when Jupiter-Neptune conjunction happened in Pisces. It's huge. That was the discovery, the start of Spiritism by Allan Kardec. He published a French mysticism. He started exploring. He didn't believe in spirits in the invisible world, so he wanted to disprove it and started exploring with mediums and channelers. It was a very rare thing back then. And he actually ended up becoming the biggest proponent of Spiritism. So he initiated the so-called Spiritism. Till the middle of the 19th century, Christianity was very religious, let's say. There was nothing spiritual. It was all about the external shape, the rules. It had really crusted and been corrupted, let's say, become very materialistic and very rigid from the original esoteric Christianity teachings that originated 2000 years earlier. It's just had an external form, what we call religion. But that's when spirituality appeared in its current form from the start of the Spiritism movement, after which, from the Spiritism movement, the Theosophy Blavatsky appeared. She started also with by participating in Spiritism seances, with channeling from departed people, departed teachers. And that's when we discovered that there is more to the invisible world than just heaven and hell and Saint Peter with the keys for heaven, the way it was like very religiously done before that. So we infused, that's when spirituality was infused back into religion. So that's what I expect will happen, a huge spiritual research, not religious, spiritual revival, and a new dispensation from above to bring back faith into people, to bring back belief into the invisible worlds, almost like in tangible ways, like Spiritism, when they had Spiritism seances in the 50s of the 18th century, 19th century, sorry, when they started, they would move tables, they would channel, they would give answers for the future. But that's kind of, again, it's very, let's say, it was a way to break through to the religiousness of people through the indoctrination, to bring in spirituality. That's why it was allowed on earth. But it's, again, it's a bit hefty. You need a medium, you need you know. Now I believe a way easier access to the invisible worlds will be created. And such movements, or I hope not cults, but such movements and groups of investigation and I don't know, teachings will appear. And those of you who are spiritual healers, who are spiritual contactees, who are medium psychics, wow, there will be clearing of the channels. So you can hear up, and like the walls between the two worlds will be thinning. Now in April, very strongly, but as a consequence for the next 12 years, this will be unfolding, 13 years. So there will be a lot of people who never even believed in spiritual things, or who have believed but never witnessed, will start having experiences that they would call miraculous, or they would call like visions or hallucinations, they might think they are. And people who are not particularly aware or spiritually clean or prepared, if their channels start opening, they might start thinking they're going crazy. So there will be strong increase in mental health issues as well. Because when those channels start opening between the invisible worlds, people start having visions, obsessions, phobias, if they're at a lower vibration, or if they have not been prepared by building virtues inside. Because if your spiritual channels open up without virtue preparation, which is, you know, humility, kindness, you know, the different virtues that have to be developed, then you attract more lower astral entities. They scare the shit out of you. You think you're going mad, or even you build with you start seeing your own thought forms, so other people's thought forms that they're not exactly the invisible worlds, but they can be quite scary and they can be quite deceptional. And I believe there will be a great deception also happening over the next 13 years. Like a teacher will appear on the negative side who can promise people that he would open their psychic abilities. They'll start having visions and experiences. So we have to be very careful about such fake teachers and gurus that appear as well. There'll be an abundance of them. They've always been, but it will be like, you know, even everyone who has any inclinations to spirituality will jump on that wagon and try to teach. And of course, there's so many levels of astral and spiritual levels that some can enter into the lower ones and connect you with the lower entities. So you really have to have strong faith, intuition, and mostly virtues within you, kindness, goodness. So by merit, you meet the right teachers. You know, that by merit, by being kind, good, forgiving, working on yourself, you'll be giving the karmic good, the good karma to meet the right teachers and the right teachings. but there will be a lot that there will be expansion and a blow up and of such people who can see into other realms, higher, lower, who are channeling. Oh, I expect there will be some incredible channelings that start happening. Plus, Pisces is the sign of alien contactees. You know, we kind of, it sounds funny, but it's a lot of the channelers that bring a lot of spiritual information. They say they're contacting with other entities from invisible, from aliens that they call them, from Andromeda, from Pleiades, and I think there will be some kind of huge boom and interest in such channelings, and a lot of information being given to us with a lot of misleading such information. So the only way that will allow you to recognize which is truthful and no, it's your intuition, and the more pure person you are, the more you resonate to the truth and you feel it with your whole body. I can't say I do, I also get misled many times. So, but it's still, even if they're misleading such teachers, even if it still leads you. Don't beat yourself up if you get disappointed with some teacher you've been following, or some psychic you've been working with, or some healer, if you feel at some moment they're scam or they're not from the highest intentions, because despite of that, this leads you to some realization of the invisible worlds, and there will be a huge such realizations even for the most material people that's happening, that the invisible forces, that there's some collective consciousness beyond that creates everything, and people will be less materialistic. And of course, there will be ones that become inveterate materialists because of the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. That is almost 40 years, 36 years, and it started in 2020. That's extreme materialism, but especially for those that are controlling and ruling the world. Well, there will be a huge spiritual dispensation of personal experiences and new spiritual teaching happening for the people collectively out of the divine love. All right, fascinating stuff. What other things? Yes, the gas prices, we saw expensive, going expensive. We talked about that. Bringing light. Jupiter brings light and understanding to something that was hidden and secretive before that. And in Pisces, this can be about cons, lies, deceptions. You know, they'll be revealed such things. Grand cons, they can be created. But especially Jupiter, the higher vibration of it is for people to realize it and to understand it, so they're not as gullible. And you even see on, if you have Netflix, 3 documentaries came out within the last 1 month about big swindlers. The Swindler, the Anne, what was her, the elite, Anna Sorokin, and then there was another one I just recently watched as well, about another big swindle, so you can see a lot of such kind of information or knowledge coming out about secrets. Even in your personal life, you can discover those. And it might be fantastic to start working with a psychologist around that time. You can find someone who is really connected to spirit, who can really deeply see into the recesses of your soul and create healing there, or to start working with a healer in some way. You know, all of those things will be positively, there'll be a rare opportunity to connect with such spiritual people around, starting from April this year overall, you know. Okay, of course, Pisces is Christianity. When the solar equinox, the spring equinox, was exactly where the 2 fishes meet, and the karmic note of the 2 fishes is when Christ was born on Earth, a high avatar, one of the highest being in our solar system, in the visible world, from a very much higher spiritual. It's not from a human level of evolution. The spirit of Christ was from a much higher, from previous evolutionary level. So it's very complex to talk about that. I'm not here to talk about that, but so what we're going to have is that there is activation of the Pisces with Jupiter and Neptune. And actually, when this happened, the huge religions, when the age of Pisces started, huge world religions appeared. Before that, they were local, before 2000 years ago. You know, this tribe here had this god, this country this god, but after that became the huge world religions. This was the age of Pisces that was still towards its final stages and the first stages of the age of Aquarius. And Christianity started that, but then Muslim, Mohammedan, Islam came, and you see kind of the world is split into two, three big religions now. Well, I believe there will be the start of some unification of those religions. There might be the push to one world religion, or it might happen quite naturally. You know, of course, dark forces will always try and use this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction on even the best combination of planets. Dark forces try to use it, white forces start to use it for the evolution of humanity, dark forces for, you know, so there might be the declaration over the next 13 years of some kind of one world religion. But again, God or the evolutionary forces of good always take the mess that the dark forces do, even if they do, because they do it with the intentions of regression of humanity, and do the best out of it. So there will be some huge spiritual, religious unifications of religions, maybe kind of agreeing more with each other, hopefully, over the next 12, 13 years. Or some kind of new world religion theory, who knows. But there will be like a revival of Christianity, but more like a esoteric and spiritual Christianities. And because Christianity, when it was given initially, it was for high initiates. It had its secret, you know, not just the external Christianity, which we're all familiar with the rituals. The deep Christianity, every religion has esoteric and exoteric, the external, the internal part. So I believe a lot of the secrets, the internal secrets of the two world religions, Christianity and Islam. For one is Sufism, for the other one, esoteric Christianity, Rosicrucianism, also called the White Brotherhood. We're not talking about skin color, we're talking about the white souls, so to speak, the light souls. That there will be a huge access and growth of this, the access to the esoteric side of Christianity, which is the kind of magical side almost. The deeply spiritual side. Okay, then another thing that Neptune Pisces can bring in Neptune Jupiter Pisces, it's watery. You're seeing already, since they've been together for the last 2 months, Australia is drowning. This is very Neptune Pisces, it's floods. And actually they're falling, they're joining together in Uttara Bhadrapada, which in Vedic astrology it's a constellation of 13 degrees, which corresponds to destruction by water, sacrifice to the gods by water. So there might be such kind of things that are happening not over the next 12 years, but especially now around the conjunction this spring, you know, into the summer. Water, kind of some big water events, maybe more rains, or maybe more some crisis in oceans, in water, sometimes through water, through floods. But hopefully they can also be big developments with people, with water resources, with cleaning the oceans. Jupiter again can bring knowledge about technologies or about solutions and wisdom, how to clean the oceans, how to clean the water supplies, and they can be a big push towards that direction. Another thing though, on a lower scale, Neptune is gas, petrol. I hope there is not some kind of a poisonous water situation, or because Neptune rules poisons as well. Another thing, Neptune, Jupiter, Pisces can be explosion of the refugees. Refugees, not only refugees, but on a positive scale, first, removal of barriers to travel. We've been seeing it. They've been close together for the last 1 month, almost to all countries. Barriers to travel have fallen. We told you this in 2021 video for 2022, that access to traveling will become easier. Even someone mentioned in our Facebook group, my Facebook page, that there is some new, because Jupiter and Neptune, Pisces rules international travel, far away, long distance travel. Jupiter removes barriers, Neptune as well. And someone mentioned that they've invented some new, not spaceship, but like a plane that can go from one end of the world to the other in around 1 hour, transatlantic, or even more Pacific, trans-Pacific in 1 hour. And they said maybe that will change over the next 13 years the face of traveling. But if, you know, and it will become much faster or more accessible. Well, let's see if this corresponds with the plans of the Great Reset to keep us not able to move much, because that's one of the plans that the World Economic Forum said, that over the next 20 to 30 years they want to stop all flying, so people don't fly, only people with very special reasons like the elites, you know. But we'll see. I think there will be some discoveries for very fast travel, you know, and so on. Hoping there is. Of course, barriers to traveling, to, oh yes, and so the movement in one way, so it will be easier now around this time for people to relocate here, there, but over the next 12, 13 years, starting from this year, I see huge movements of masses from one place to another. There will be a big wave of refugees. It's starting to happen already. I spoke again about that 5 months ago when I made the video for 2022, that I expect refugee waves to happen. And we're seeing it. Europe is over. There's so many Ukrainians coming, and, you know, to different countries. It's small, but I don't think that's it. There's something much more that will come. I don't think just a group of Ukrainians in distress is what this refugee wave is going to be about. And I even read that recently, that surprised me, that because of the crisis that's happening right now, economic, Africa and those countries will also be strongly affected, and there's preparation of a huge wave of refugees. They're economic refugees, or, you know, coming from Africa into Europe. And maybe you're seeing it in the States as well. Huge waves of refugees are coming from the southern border as well. It's like movement of big masses. Pisces rules people that are displaced, that are refugees, that are in a lot of travel, and that removal of barriers, you know, between countries as well. But of course, Pisces also symbolizes unemployment. You know, it's a state of rest. Jupiter, Neptune can expand it. Like a lot of jobs becoming really void. Like a lot of people losing their jobs, not just now temporarily, but because such jobs are no longer necessary. And as I said, it has a throwback for another 12, 13 years ahead. So I expect those influence that starts now over the next 12, 13 years, probably 60, 70% of the existing jobs will become no longer necessary, void of, you know, so there'll be a huge, as some modern philosophers call them, useless humanity that feels useless, that, you know, Pisces rules everyone, from very little children that can't take care of themselves to very old people that enter into kind of senility, that they can't take care of themselves, sick people in hospitals, people that are mentally unstable, unhealthy, or people that just loitering, they don't have anything to do. Because Pisces has very high spiritual vibration, but it has very low spiritual vibration as well, as everything has two polarities, where it's someone who is lost, confused, useless, without purpose or goal, just lost, you know, either in their mind, mentally, psychologically, or displaced people, refugees, orphans is Pisces. Pisces is all kinds of loss on the material level, and sometimes it can be extreme poverty. So I'm thinking there might be a big wave of unemployment that's happening, of increase of Pisces rules prisons and hospitals. Jupiter, Neptune can expand those things, can expand the need for doctors, nurses, medical staff. And not to forget that Saturn enters Pisces from next year. There can be a big crisis that happens from 2023 in that field. Also, Pisces rules unemployment services, human social services for anyone with problems, you know. Those that do the humanitarian charity work, you know, they can be currently first like an explosion of the need for such services, opportunities in such careers. Like if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you're a mental health specialist, if you're someone about displaced, for refugees, for all of those, for people without jobs, anything that is such kind of career. And of course, I think there'll be a lot of compassion from people for each other, helping each other. You can see it already with the war. Everyone's reaching out for those in needs, helping on both sides, helping to the Russians, helping to the Ukrainians. You know, on both sides, people can feel like hostages. And there is incredible compassion, and despite of the forces, some of the darker forces are trying to make us against each other, and yes, they're succeeding. Oh, very good. But this conjunction is helping us unify more and see beyond the lies, and not even see rationally. It's like a feeling. Okay, do I hate the Russians? Oh, actually, they're human beings. You know, I have compassion for them too, and I have compassion for the Ukrainians, and I have the compassion for the vaccinated or the unvaccinated. We're all, doesn't, you know, all those separations that we've been seeing for the last 2 years, it's crazy. Use a human being, another soul, exactly as important to God and creation, and people will be able to feel on a deeper level that, to feel this connection. You know, Pisces is about, especially Uttara Bhadrapada as well, is about feeling the sense of something. Not it's, okay, so it's, you see a person and he is an alcoholic and he lives on the streets and steals things or whatever, you know, or, but you see his essence and his potential. And you, or someone, for example, a girl falls in love with a boy is a loser, everyone tells her he's a loser, she says, yeah, but I'm in love with his soul, with his potential. That's what Pisces is. Yes, we might make the wrong choices, practically speaking, but we feel the deep, and every soul has eternal potential, infinite potential, and we connect with this divine part of the soul of another. That's why it's easier to unify as a humanity. And I would advise you on the 12th of April, if you have some time, or if you remember, since Pisces rules water, if you live close to water, go for a walk there, to the ocean especially. If not, take some pure spring water. And because